Welcome to another day of Bhagavad Gita Sadhana. I'm Atmadarshan or Laura, or from a long time ago, Sensei Laura, whatever you'd like to call me. And we are continuing our exploration of Samatvam, which is often translated as equanimity, but more literally means being essentially the same. Finding out who you are and having the courage, strength, and conviction to be that person, no matter what goes on around you. So we're getting a lot of our inspiration from the Bhagavad Gita, a very classic spiritual text. And I've mentioned this before, it seems to be about an outer war, which has led many yoga students that I've taught about the Gita to say, well, if it's about a war, then why do we study it? Because yoga is all about ahimsa, because that's a whole nother topic we could spend days on. But really, if you read it, it's about an inner war between Arjun, a soldier, and himself. And his best friend and guide, Krishna, is trying to help him reconcile different aspects of his being so that he can move forward in harmony and with authenticity and with all of his gifts engaged. So one of the Gita represents this inner conflict by talking about different opposites, especially like honor and dishonor. One of the things Arjun says in chapter 1 is, what if people talk bad? I know this is the right thing to do, but what if people talk bad about me? How will I be remembered? What is my legacy? Do I want to be honored or dishonored? And that can be a big one for many of us. Sometimes our ego leads us to choices that we may otherwise not make. And this is what we're talking about today, part 3 of our discussion of a very real inner conflict that then spills out into the outer world between what we would call the head and the heart, which in the West are often described as being at odds. Don't listen to your heart, think it through, or stop using your head so much, come from here. But according to the Gita, these are two parts of ourselves we have to reconcile, or our life is not going to be satisfactory to us, either while we're living it or when we get to the end and look back on it. So how do we do this? So a couple days ago, I invited you to live or to contemplate a challenging situation from the mind. The survival mind is what it's known as in yoga psychology. Its job is to keep you alive, and it uses sensory input of all kinds to do that. And not just alive physically, but to keep your memory alive also. And since it's the survival mind, it's related to a very real need that's hardwired into human beings, which is that we are social animals. We are created, newborns right out of the womb, they can recognize facial expressions and other things, smells, for example, that lead them to, they know who their mother is and they know what to do. They know how to nurse, they know how to stay alive, and they need another human being for that. We need human beings for a very long time to help us grow into our mature physical form. And then we have the heart, which doesn't listen to the sensory input. It tends to listen more within. It's said in many traditions and in many yogic traditions that the true self, what we might call the soul, or in Sanskrit, the Atma, lives here, right in here. And many spiritual leaders, like Jesus has said, he lives in the heart. Krishna has said he lives in the heart. Um, so these two are at odds, definitely, because we want to fit in and have relationship, but we also need to be ourselves. And which one wins in daily life? And the way we're brought up does not help. We are taught contradictory things when we are young and then expected to flip them when we get older. For example, those of you in the West, and maybe other places, have you ever had your parents say this? So you say to your parents, but all the kids are going to this party, or all the kids are going to the football game, or or the soccer game, or all the kids are going to, and the parents say, if all your friends jumped into the lake, would you do it too? If all your friends jumped off a cliff, would you do that too? Depending on what part of the country you live in. So we're taught At that age, the clear message that we need to think for ourselves and be ourselves and not follow the crowd. However, when we get older, we see the adults around us defaulting to that same thing they've taught us not to follow. So, for example, taxes. I've heard this from people. I'm not going to specify anybody, but oh, it doesn't matter if you cut corners a little here, there. Everybody does it. Or speeding. Oh my gosh. Everybody's here in Cleveland. Everybody runs the red light. I mean, if it just turns red, you got to go through, because if you don't, the 2 and 3 people behind you are going to be mad and beeping, right? Everybody does it. And so we're set up for this conflict. Everybody does it, and we need to go along, because if you're like me in Cleveland and you go 25 miles per hour down some of these streets, or 30 miles an hour through the metro parks, which are meant to be enjoyed, people are behind you and they are irate. What do you do? Do you do the law-abiding thing, or do you give in to societal pressure? Definitely a conflict within each of us, which can be represented as Arjun saying, do I do what is right, or do what other people are telling me I should do? We each have to meet this conflict. And one way we can work on that is to start reconciling our head and our heart. Start believing they listen to each other and that they can work together. In a book called Buddhism, what is the name of it? It's Why Buddhism is True. The author cites research that shows that actually we all make decisions with our emotions and then use our head to justify them generally. Like when we buy a house or a car, which can explain some really freaky buying decisions from people who otherwise seem level headed, right? So they're working together behind the scenes and behind our backs, maybe in front of our backs, within our bodies. But can we acknowledge this? Can we help them work together better? Can we really reconcile this need to fit in with also needing to be ourselves? This is the primary battle of our lives. And today's practice is dedicated to all the folks who showed up for the Yoga and Aikido event last night, or yesterday morning. Last night. Where was I last night? And we basically talked about yoga helps you be more comfortable in yourself, being true to yourself, and then Aikido helps you be more comfortable in relationship. So they really, pairing those two together can help address that conflict, or we can find it working out for ourselves in other ways. But it takes work, it takes practice. Woo, the sun. So let's practice today. The balance pose is all about calming the mind because, as I mentioned yesterday at the event, you can't really stand on one foot and balance while you're thinking about everything. Try it. And if you'd like hands on the heart, this is one of the Hriday mudras. We can join the functions of head and heart if you'd like. I'm going to turn this so you don't get blinded by the light so much. Go. Switch sides. Wonderful. Woo. Okay, now we'll have contemplation, which we do every day for about 5 minutes. You can contemplate how to join your head and heart together. And if you're like, I have no idea how to start, one yogic technique is to start with the attention at the breastbone and feel that with each inhalation, you're breathing up the front of the body to the eyebrow center. And each exhalation, the breath descends to the heart center. This is said to help link heart and head. So whichever one you're comfortable with, or something else if you prefer. Let's start. That's the end of our meditative time today. But maybe, here, let's turn this a little bit. Maybe you can take these ideas into your life. And if you've just joined us, welcome. There are other videos, including the first one, if you want to learn more about what this program is. And if you'd like to join us for other events, please look below. We've got classes coming up. That's in the link in the top line. And you can also use that site to find out workshops for other one-off events, which I'll be talking about because we've got some fun ones coming up. I can't wait. My heart and my head look forward to the next time we can connect. So until then.